Hey there, in this training video we are going to dive deep into the directory. We're going to walk through all of your critical business information, how to get it entered, and what you need to know about it. So we'll head over to the directory in the navigation and start with physicians. So here we can obviously see a huge list of our physicians. We can sort and filter. You can look at active or inactive records. To create a new one, we can click the plus button in the upper right corner. All of the directory records that we're going to be creating can be created in the same way pretty much throughout the system by clicking the plus button in the upper right corner. So entering the physician is easy. Enter the name and enter some tags if you want to for that physician. The key thing that you'll want to note about the tags is what do you want to track about the physician? So the tags will allow you to track anything that we don't already allow you to track because they are user-defined search terms, just like with inventory. So one thing you might want to track is where they went to residency. Did they go to Northwestern, for instance? That way, if you are pitching another doctor who did their residency at Northwestern, maybe you look up this physician as a reference. So things like that, things you might want to track about the physician, that would be a space to do it. Once you have that entered, click Next. Now enter the street address for the physician. The nice thing is that it has type ahead, so you can just select the address from what comes up. Click Next. And then you can make any assignments with the facilities, procedures, and product lines that that physician is going to be doing work with. So creating these associations helps narrow down the options when you are creating your cases and can be used as a reference to tell more information about any given physician. Then click Create, and our new physician will be added. The key thing after adding any new directory record is to go to the Users section and assign the physician to any of the users who are going to be using it. So you're going to need to go to every user's page who does business with this physician and assign it. The good news is it is quick and easy. So now we'll move on to preference cards. Just a second ago, we were talking about tags and how they can help you track, pieces of information about a surgeon. Preference cards can also help you track surgeon preferences. Let's create one and take a look at how. So first, create a name for this preference card. In a preference card, we are attaching a physician to particular pieces of inventory and a particular inventory procedure. So maybe that's how we name it. So we will select the procedure. There we go. Select our physician, which will select the one that I just created for continuity purposes. All right, use the note section to enter some information about the surgeon preferences. Need to add it. And if you want to make this preference card available to other users, you can check that switch here. Then click Next. And here you'll select the inventory that you want to associate with this preference card. So, if this doctor uses this procedure all the time, what inventory is he always going to be using? What inventory does he always need to have when he's going to do that procedure? That way you can use this preference card to request inventory or select it in a case as well, or even to quote inventory. So, click the Add New button, select the manufacturer, and then you can select whole product lines or loose devices, narrowing down your search. Then you can select the actual devices that need to go on this preference card and their associated quantities. Now, if we wanted to remove these items, you could also create this preference card from a bill of materials. So if, for instance, you use a bill of materials to manage custom sets, maybe you want to build this preference card based off of one of those custom bombs that you already created. That'll automatically add the inventory items to this preference card that are on the bomb, and then you can add any extra items that you want. Then click Create, and your preference card will be created. This preference card will automatically be assigned to the user who created it, as well as other users if this preference card is made available to other users. Otherwise, you may need to make additional user assignments. Now, we will take a look at facilities. So facilities is a big one because we're managing points of contact as well as contract pricing. So we're going to spend a good chunk of time here on facilities. To create a new one, we'll click the plus button in the upper right, enter a name for the facility. Just like other directory records, we utilize the Google API to search addresses using type ahead. So if you see the address that you're looking for, you can select it and it'll populate that address right there for you. Otherwise, enter all of the address information. You can check this switch if it's going to be an international. If it's an international customer, you can denote that here, then click Next. Now add a primary contact for the facility. If there's a problem, who are you calling? Or if there's a contract question, who are you calling? This might be that person. So just enter that information. They are probably not going to be your billing contact for anything, but if they are, you can make them the default for sending sales orders or invoices. And you can add any additional contacts you may have for the facility, and they also can be marked as the default. Just bear in mind, you can only have one default for invoices and only one default for sales orders. So enter all of your points of contact, then click Next, and then enter the billing contact. This is a really important piece of information because most often this is the person who's in charge of you getting paid. So enter the billing contact. It could even be like the AP department if you don't have an individual person, but you can enter the information here, and most importantly, their email, because the email is how you can send them the sales order or the invoice. So make sure you get that put in. Then you can add any other contact information for the billing that is required. But as you can see, the address, the phone, these aren't required. I think the email is honestly the most important, but you are in charge of your contact information. You know what's important. So fill out what you need here. I think the key is to make sure that for every facility, you have one default for sales orders and another default for invoices. Some other options you'll see here. If you need to use alternate catalog numbers on the billing documentation for this facility, those are something you can set up in the pricing lists. You can turn that on right here. If for some reason this facility hasn't been paying and you need to put them on credit hold, you can turn that on and off right here. But hopefully you're not creating a facility in credit hold, but that will prevent any further cases from being done at that facility. And then mark if the contract is already complete. You can set this up later, but this needs to be turned on with a renewal date. You can set this up later, but this needs to be turned on before the facility can be used. And you can also put in the contract renewal date so that you and your company can keep track of when this contract needs to get renegotiated. Then click Next. If you have facility par levels, you can add those here. We talked about this in our training on locations, but you can easily set up facility par levels while you're creating the actual facility. That way they are good to go. Just make sure you've already created that location for your facility so you can assign them all to the right location. This is not a good example. If you're using our financial integrations with QuickBooks, you can enter the QuickBooks customer ID here. Otherwise, click Create and your facility will be added. I'll mention again that at this point, I would go and assign this facility to any users who are going to be doing business with it and make sure everything is set up with our financial system integration so that everything works the way it needs to. If you need to upload any contracts or documents, that may be a good thing to do here in the directory. But otherwise, just make sure you got your points of contact entered and your defaults are turned on. And then we can start talking about pricing. All right, so you may have been noticing the pricing button in the upper right. You also may have seen the pricing buttons here on the facilities list page. So click on the pricing button and you'll see the different options you have to apply contract pricing. So the first, you can use a reusable price list. The second, you can upload an individual price list for this facility only. First, we're going to upload a price list for this facility only, and then later when we get to the price list section, I will change it to a reusable price list. So we'll select that middle option here, and you can see it's telling you what columns you need to have in your import. Here's what an import will look like. You'll have a manufacturer column, a catalog number column, and a price. And that's all you need. So then I click upload, we'll select our file, click open, and then click map fields. So if you've done an inventory import before, this will look familiar to you. All we need to do is select the manufacturer of the inventory and then map the fields in Beacon to the column headers of our spreadsheet. So map the catalog number to the catalog number column. If you're not using an alternate catalog number, you don't need to worry about that. The purpose of the alternate catalog number is namely to help you manage pricing exceptions at a customer by using an alternate catalog number for that given item. So we'll leave that one blank since we're not using it here, and then we'll select price. Click review, and it's going to show us what's actually in our spreadsheet and what will be imported. Then click done. And the prices will have been added. And you can see now we have a check mark next to this facility. So that price list is now assigned to this facility, and any of the items that were on that list will populate pricing automatically. It's worth noting that this does not tell us if any items are missing. So if we release new inventory, you'll need to go modify these price lists. If for some reason items were left off this price list, those items will still show without contract pricing. So there is still a burden on you to make sure you're loading pricing for all inventory. All right, so now let's move on to price lists and talk about the other option for uploading contract pricing. So you can imagine that uploading a different price list for every facility can get pretty taxing when you have to manage pricing changes, or when you release new inventory and suddenly you have 200 price lists to change. So the reusable price lists allow you to upload your price list and then apply them to many facilities if all of those facilities share common pricing. So to upload a price list, it's very similar. You just click new price list, click upload, select your file, click map fields, and just like before, we'll map these fields and upload. Now you can modify these if you need to, if there's for some reason you notice a mistake. Otherwise, click done, and your price list will be uploaded. Now that we've uploaded it, we have to assign it to any facilities that are going to be using it. So it's real easy. All you do is go click on the pricing button and say use an existing reusable price list. This warns you that it'll overwrite the pricing that's currently uploaded for the facility. So that's really key to remember. When you upload a new price list, it will overwrite what's there previously. So there's no, just uploading changes or the system will take whatever changes. That's not how this works. It will overwrite the price list that's currently there. So I'll just select that from the list here, and our pricing will be applied. Now I can go apply that price list to any other facilities that I want. Just like that. So you can see how it makes assigning pricing and managing pricing really easy. Because what do you do when there's a change to a price? If you're using reusable price lists, just head over to that reusable price list and edit it there. Boom. Now that is edited with all the facilities where this contract price list is assigned. So if you need to edit pricing for an individual facility, go find that facility. And instead of editing the reusable price list, you will view, edit, or manually add prices. And that will allow you to pull up the manufacturer and catalog numbers in question and edit one by one, or click View Edit All to see them in a list form and make your adjustments here. The only difference is you will be only editing one facility as opposed to a bunch of facilities assigned to one list. So that is how contract pricing works and price lists. So we'll move on to procedures. This is the easiest one. We'll click New Procedure and you just fill in the info here. So put in a name for the procedure, then select the procedure type. Select any product lines that you want to associate with that procedure. And I accidentally created that before I got all the way through the form, but you can also add procedure modifiers. So procedure modifiers are just little addendums that can add context to the actual procedure. So as you can see, we already have some here, but you can create these like tags. So just enter it, click enter. You'll note that one manufacturer will have the primary org account. That's you, that is your company. But then other manufacturers are listed here as well as your suppliers. And then you'll also be able to see easily which manufacturers are billed as the primary org account. We talked about this in our settings training, but you are allowed to set up some of your manufacturers to be billed as your organization. So what does that mean? Imagine that you purchased this inventory from the supplier as opposed to selling on consignment, and now you want to bill using your company's information on the invoice and the sales order, as opposed to putting the actual supplier's information on the invoice and sales order. So setting them up like this allows you to be the person who's billed. Another instance might be white labeling product. So to create a new manufacturer, click the button in the upper right. And what's really easy is you can search the FDA's database or even scan one of your labels to enter a manufacturer, or you can just go ahead and enter all of the information manually. So we'll just go ahead and pick one out of the database, create it that way. All right. You can see it even pulled the FDA contact, which is sweet. And then the last section in the directory is your regions. But we should talk about what regions are and what regional managers are. So a regional manager in the hierarchy sits right above distributors. However, a regional manager doesn't do any cases, they don't have their own inventory, they don't transfer inventory per se, but they may be managing and keeping track of sales within a particular region. So you can create a region here that pertains to a grouping of states. And then you can assign that region to a regional manager. Here we go. You can assign regions to this regional manager, and that will give them purview over the cases happening in those regions. So that is what a region is, in case you happen to be using regional managers. If you are using regional managers, talk to your customer success representative about how you're setting those up and how you're using them, just to make sure you understand all the ins and outs of that role. So that is our training on the directory. Please tune in to our next video to learn more.